Hello everyone, welcome to yet another edition of Tarmak Talking. Today we have as a guest Group Captain T.R. Ravi, a Vaisena Medal recipient who was with the Indian Air Force till recently. Group Captain Ravi comes with tons of experience as a transport fleet pilot. With the Indian Air Force, he has operated virtually every transport platforms of Indian Air Force, be it the N-32s, the IL-76, the C-17. He was the first pioneer flight commander of the C-17 Sqn. Today we are specifically going to ask him about operating on the borders, especially keeping in mind the current standoff between India and China. We'll also ask him about the challenges of flying in the hilly terrains of India. We'll also ask him about the significance of Indian Air Force acquiring wide-bodied transport fleet. So sit back and enjoy this edition of Tarmak Talking.
I must say that I was one of those luckiest pilot who got posted to Chandigarh as my first posting. After ab initio training at Yelahanka, we all pilots were eagerly waiting for our postings, and everybody wanted to go either to Chandigarh or Jorhat so that you get exposed to these hilly terrains. And I was those lucky guy who got posted to Chandigarh. And I still remember my first sortie toward this glacier mountainous terrain. It was with my instructor. The very flying, the approach towards these hilly mountains is absolutely awesome. And in fact, actually, we used to get airborne early in the morning at about 5:30 and just see the sunrise at, valley where it used to be beautiful to look at. And approach and landing at Leh or Thois is absolutely awesome. And in due course of time, within about 1 year, as a flying officer and a flight lieutenant, I was cleared to operate in these areas independently. So it's very challenging, to land at Leh and Thois in AN-32 Russian aircraft. And also towards, the drop zone areas, which is, further north of glacier, closer towards the Indo-China border. All those drop zone areas was absolutely challenging. I still, remember each and every terrain, each and every high hill spot that we are, asked to memorize, right from the beginning. And so this was, my 3 years tenure in Chandigarh, where I was exposed to almost nook and corner of the northern glacier. And again, I was again lucky to get posted to Jorhat, which was now taking me towards the eastern side of the border towards China. And again here, I was exposed to places like Mechuka, Vijayanagar, and the drop zones of Gandhi Nagar and so on, Tooting. Most of the places, I was indeed very lucky. And as a flight lieutenant, we used to look forward, we used to do detachments, from Mohanbari, and we used to go there, stay there for about 7 days or 14 days. And every day, all we used to do was get up early in the morning and get airborne and land at Mechuka. Then it was an ALG, absolutely advanced landing ground, and landing at Vijayanagar. So I was, indeed very lucky. Within a span of about just 6 years, I was fully operational in the northern side of the glacier and as well as the eastern side, closer towards the China. Okay, so I'll talk first, towards the northern glacier. There's a drop zone, DBO. I'll mention DBO because most of you people know about it, and the Big Oldie. During those times, when I started flying toward that area, the LG was there, but the AN-32 aircraft was not landing at that time, so we used to do drop zones. So I still remember somewhere in 1996, it's almost 30 years back. So when we used to go there, I could see the China infrastructure, the proper type concrete roads coming closer to the DBO on their side. But on our side, it used to be only, kacha tracks or something like that, but not much of infrastructure. So we used to fly in these areas, Indo-China border, very close, only based on our navigation system and the visual. When I say visual, you're looking down and looking at the valley, and some spots, we used to pick up, and some kind of, hilly thing, which resembles, some kind of a feature. We used to remember those, and then we used to fly towards these areas and do drop zone sorties. And same way, in the eastern sector also, like, when you used to do drop in all these, eastern sectors, similar, we used to fly in the valley, come very close to the border. Like, I could talk about, Mechuka, Mechuka, if I may say, which is relevant to this scenario because in 1962 war, it is told, it is there in the open source also, that the local inhabitants claim that the PLA soldiers, had come to Mechuka and Taksing Valley and camped there for about few days. Only, I think, in 30th November 1962, when the ceasefire happened, the soldiers withdrew. So during that time, just imagine, the soldiers coming very deep, as close to Mechuka and Taksing Valley. But now, of course, the scenario is different. So when we used to land at Mechuka and all, when we used to do a circuit pattern, we come very close, we come very close to the circuit pattern and then land. It is very challenging, especially because, you're supposed to be flying there in what we call as VMC condition, that is, visual met conditions, where you're supposed to be looking at everything. You should be looking at every hill terrain. But if, and the place like that, Mechuka for that matter, or for that matter even Northern Glacier, the weather pattern is very unpredictable. It keeps changing, very often. So if it so happens that, if the weather packs up once you reach Mechuka, it is quite likely that, you may cross over, or you may cross into, a wrong valley. And that, Krish, that, we had lost, few aircrafts earlier also, and exactly just a year back, we lost on AN-32, close to Tato Ridge. So that is how it is, and it is very challenging. You have to be absolutely 200% sure as where you are, and that is how you're trained there also. When you start off your training, you train with a lot of instructors, and then only you're cleared solo. So, and then, during those days, if I place myself, you're just about, 28, 30 years old, you're all pumped up, you want to always fly, in those kind of, situations, and you have to guard against it. You have to be professionally very sound, and you have to be, if I may say that, absolutely disciplined, in flying. Yes. Okay, so I was telling you, I was posted in Jorad, so I had a lot of experience, flying AN-32 in Mechuka. So those things actually helped me quite a lot. But there was no lot of difference, before talking about, the C-17 landing at Mechuka. It's very important for, layman, to understand, what is the difference between, landing a turboprop aircraft and a jet engine aircraft, because a lot of people, they can't digest right now, they don't even know that, a wide-body heavy aircraft, a 270-ton heavy aircraft like, C-17, has landed in Mechuka, all those veterans, and it is very difficult for them to understand about it. And for the layman, probably I will just, give a little bit of difference between a turboprop aircraft, and the jet engine aircraft. So a turboprop aircraft, it is probably, you can think as a slow-moving aircraft, and it is easy to fly. And the main difference that, as a layman, that you would want, an audience to understand is that the engines, the aircraft is, driven by the propeller. So it's something like, the fan is running, and if you want the more mass of airflow coming down, you can increase the speed of the fan blades, or you can, just, twist the fan blades, or in our parlance, we call it as, increasing the pitch. So there is more mass flow coming down. So in a turboprop aircraft, when you're opening throttle, all you're doing is, trying to change that pitch. So there is an instantaneous increase or response of the throttle movement of the pilot to the engine and the aircraft. But then when you talk about jet engine aircraft, again, as a layman principle, and if I have to make somebody understand, it's something like, in Diwali, you fire a cracker. So the rocket, it has got, a small cylindrical thing where the propellant is, burnt, and all those burnt smoke, it is funneled downwards and the rocket goes up. The jet engine is something like that. So in the combustion chamber, you put fuel and there is an air, and the fuel is burnt, and the exhaust cone, the smoke goes out, or if you get the thrust goes out, and the jet engine the aircraft is propelled forward. But in jet engine, you cannot put fuel altogether, suddenly, if you want, more power. So what can happen is, the combustion chamber can, explode, or the aircraft can explode. So there's something called as an acceleration control unit, where a pre-designed way the fuel is, set inside the combustion chamber. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the jet engine response to the throttle, movement of the pilot is slightly sluggish. So flying a jet engine and flying a turboprop aircraft is totally different, when you're flying at a very high altitude airfield, like for that matter, Leh, Thois, or even Mechuka, which is, 6,000 feet, elevation. So, in fact, when C-17 2016, we had planned for a landing, it was almost, 15 years back, I had landed AN-32. So, of course, as far as the navigations are concerned, it was pretty easy. And plus, these aircraft C-17, as far as the navigation is concerned, is absolutely awesome because, all those are all fed in the mission computer. The aircraft just flies by itself. But what is more important, is like the turboprop aircraft AN-32, the wingspan is about, just about 95 feet. Now the C-17 you can take it as almost double, 180 feet. So when you're flying the C-17 in the very narrow valley of, Mechuka, like in fact, actually I request all the audience, and if you want to understand, you should just see in the Google Earth how the Mechuka valley looks like. The width of the valley can vary from, just about 1.5 nautical miles to just about, 6 nautical miles. The Mechuka itself is just about, 20 kilometers in length and 10 kilometers in width. So when the C-17 is flying, you have to cater for the radius of turn. And when the audience will go through the Google Earth, you will see that you come to Ring and King and you come to Payum, you take a left and go towards the valley, and the valley is so narrow that once you get into that valley at a particular height, there is no turning back. If you have to turn back, you have to go to the right corner of a hill and then put on a bank, drop your speed because the radius of turn has to be adjusted. So you are committed there. So as for the flying, the C-17, a jet engine is concerned, it was very challenging. But of course, C-17, the aircraft is actually built for all these kind of purpose. But still, considering the width of the valley, it was really very challenging because you have to be 100% sure, that the valley is opening and then you're entering the valley. And once you come over in the valley, then as I said, the bowl is very small. So, but you flying a circuit pattern is not very difficult, in C-17 because it is a highly maneuverable aircraft. You can put in, as much as 60-degree angle of bank, if it is required. So, and on finals, we could, put about 45-degree angle of bank to align with the finals for the approach for Mechuka. And on the top of finals, that is now the game begins. You look to your left, you co-pilot, both of you, you smile at each other, and then you just rub your palms, and then you get, you warmed up. And then now, as I said, the engine response to the throttle movement is very important, when you're making an approach, especially at a very high altitude airfield. And here I would like to say that there is one major difference, between the turboprop, the AN-32 aircraft, the older AN-32 aircraft, and the C-17 aircraft, is that in AN-32 aircraft, you have to appreciate yourself as, you're going at a correct 5-degree glide path. It is like a feel, we say, the feel of a pan. But in C-17, we got something called as the flight path vector. The flight path vector exactly is placed, where you want to touch down. So it is easy as far as, the glide path is concerned to maintain. And so naturally, because of the high terrain and the slope of the approach, you make a 5-degree glide path. Otherwise, normally it is a 3-degree glide path at which the aircraft comes and lands. Now, after having made the last adjustments, when you see the video, you will notice that, as I cross just over the boundary, the compound wall, you can see that the vortices, which come out, you can see that the landing gear, the wheels are very close to the compound wall, and you have to be such precise, you have to do such precise, the maneuver, so that, you can touch down at the correct point. Because this where is the game changer, because as soon as you touch down, such big aeroplane, a 270-ton aeroplane, has to be stopped within a distance of 4,200 feet. That is really a small distance, because normally for a C-17 class of aircraft, or for that matter, any jet engine aircraft, you require 9,000. And here in Mechuka, firstly, it is a high elevated airfield, and secondly, it is a shorter runway, 4,200. And you have to touch down at a precise point so that you can stop within the given length of runway. So it was very, very challenging. And once you stop, once jam onto the brakes and the aircraft comes to a stop and you can still see there is large distance of runway available to you, then you sigh a relief that you landed pretty nicely and correctly. So that was about the Mechuka landing. Yeah, Krish, it's a very relevant question. Like, if I go back, 6 decades back, right from 1960s, right from Caribou aircraft till C-17, there's been a huge difference, the huge increase in quantum of the payload that we could carry. Just imagine a Caribou aircraft landing in 1962, 63s and an ALG with probably just about 1 ton. And today C-17, which has got a capacity of 75 tons. But of course, the payload will be restricted, because of the shorter distance of the runway length available, as I said, and also the high elevation. But then, thinking, that we had Kacha track once upon a time, and now today we have a concrete roads up to Mechuka. And then once upon a time, we used to have Caribou, then graduated to AN-32s, and then C-130s, and then C-17s. In today's scenario, we could actually insert tons of the load, right into Mechuka if it is required. We can talk about the heavy artillery or anything that is resourceful for the the war material, if I may say that. And from anywhere, with C-17, you could probably pick up the items which are there in Karnikobar and then insert directly into Mechuka. Because we used to earlier have only spoke-to-spoke operation, which means that a larger aircraft like IL-76 has to come and land at Jorhat with the resources, and then an aircraft like AN-32 would go from Jorhat to Mechuka, that is spoke-to-spoke. But here with C-17s, you can go from hub to spoke directly into Mechuka. Like, you could probably, fly abroad, pick up your, resources that is required at Mechuka, say for that matter, maybe Bryce Norton, maybe, anywhere else apart from India, and then fly directly into Mechuka. So that is a kind of, the quantum leap that, we have taken since 1960s. And it will be a game changer in future conflicts if it may have to happen. Absolutely, Krish. First of all, any mission, which gets airborne and flies towards a border, let's say a place like Mechuka or something like that, there's something called as, intelligence clearance. The briefing is done, what is happening around that airfield is briefed to the pilots, and of course the air quarter, takes a lot of, planning. They do a lot of planning, and then they pass on all the required instructions and procedures to the squadron, and then from squadron the pilots get the briefing. The procedures could be different from what we have been doing in the peacetime operations and otherwise. So whenever you're operating very close to the border, firstly, of course, everybody would understand that you have to be staying away from the borderline. But for this to happen, there are radars. We are always in constant in touch through communication with all the radars. We keep getting instructions. And even if there is a weather and we have to skirt around the weather, during that weather skirting, if you are coming very close to the border, there are radars which pick up directly onto the radar, and then they give you instructions to turn left or right accordingly to stay away from the border. Yeah, so like again for a layman, what I would like to put forth some parameters is like let's say the northernmost point of India, the northern glacier, to the southernmost point of India, which is an Indira point, is approximately about 2,000 nautical miles. So we have AN-32s, which could carry that kind of a load, on a hop over. So we'll leave aside AN-32. Now we have C-130s, which can carry almost close to 20 tons non-stop for 2,000 nautical miles. And now the next graduation, maybe the step ahead will be the IL-76, double the 20 tons, 40 tons, 2,000 nautical miles. And now the C-17s, double the 40 tons, close to 80 tons for the same distance, 2,000 nautical miles. So I think, you will be able to understand now, what is the kind of, asset that we have right now. And of course, when I say 80 nautical miles, and the C-17s, capability is 75 nautical miles, but that is the kind of reach we have right now, from northernmost tip to southernmost tip, 2,000 nautical miles, whether it is 20 tons or 40 tons or 80 tons non-stop, we can insert the material. Yeah, Krish, the C-17s, as I said, it's a wide-bodied, heavy class of aircraft. The US C-17s, could transport their tanks, AMBRAM class of, the tanks. And we were, approached. We were given a challenge of transporting a T-72 tank. It's approximately 45 tons, and of course, we did, transport it to Leh and Thois as required. And what we did was, because it was 45 tons, we had to remove, certain parts and reduce it to about close to 40 tons. It was very challenging, to transport a 40-ton tank, from one place. Yeah, in each sortie we could fit in, only one tank, and and we could transport it to Leh, because it has its own challenge. Keeping in mind that the fuel, we had to reduce the fuel, and then ensuring that the payload was maximum, and we did that. So as you said, the Mysore is a very short runway, and more importantly, it's a narrow runway, which has got just about 90 feet, width of the runway. And again, we were given a challenge that if C-17s could land there, because during that time, I'm sure you all would understand that we had to circulate, too many notes, too many currencies to different parts of the country. And so we had to take out maximum when that was possible from Mysore. So I landed for the first time in Mysore, and it was again a very challenging task, because given the fact that the width of the runway is very narrow, the outer engines could go over the unpaved surface. We had our own doubts if there was any FOD ingestion or something like that, but we took adequate precautions. We had a lot of planning, and we did land for the first time in Mysore, and picked up a lot of currencies, and then we transported to the place that was required to. Yeah, there's something called as manifestation. You sign the manifest. That the consignment has got so much of currencies and so much of tonnage and all that stuff. So till the time I hand it over at the known destination to another RBI officer, towards 45 minutes. So yes, it's a huge responsibility. Yeah, Krishna, I was pretty lucky, that the right moment, I could join a very reputed company, Indigo, and we all know, it is a major player. It could become, it could be called as a national carrier, of our country. And I'll be flying Airbus 320, and in present COVID-19 conditions, we know that the training and everything is delayed a little bit. And I'm sure, with all the experience that I have, that will be utilized on Airbus 320. But of course, yes, the military flying and the commercial flying will be totally different, totally different. And I'm sure I'll be getting up for it.
Let me just ask you finally, are you not going to miss the Indian Air Force?
Absolutely, absolutely, Krish. Once an air warrior, you're always an air warrior. Once a soldier, and always a soldier. And there is nothing, there is no life which can be compared to the Indian Air Force life. I will surely, miss the Air Force life, but yes, the life goes on.
Thank you so much for coming down to this place. This is our Inspired Indian Foundation, Office Rameshwaram. You might have heard about this in the past. We really, really enjoyed this session with you. Tons of knowledge, tons of experience, and I'm sure people who are watching this program, they will understand what it means to operate on a transport fleet at very challenging conditions. Very proud of you, Group Captain Ravi.
And thank you, Krish. I must say that Rameshwaram, the name itself, is so sacred for us, and you named this for this foundation, and you're doing a great job. It is giving knowledge to so many people, and it's a very unique channel which is concentrating only on aerospace and the defense projects. Which I feel that over a period of time the civilian people were not interested earlier, but now it's picking up. And again, courtesy people like you, who is giving that tickling to the young brains. I'm very happy for you. Wish you all the best. That was Group Captain Ravi, and I hope all of you enjoyed this very special edition of Tarmak Talking. What an inspiring personality he is. What a down-to-earth aviator. The way he explained to us, it was like a school teacher teaching us physics, isn't it? So we shall be back with more such stories, more stories from heroes from India's aerospace and defense sector.
Until then, it's goodbye from me. Keep watching this channel. Keep writing to me. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.